So a question I often get asked is, Jonathan, if you had to start all over from scratch and you had no audience, no list, what would you do in the first 5 days to get your online business off the ground? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Hey messengers, welcome to the Market Your Message Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Milligan, and author of the book, Your Message Matters: How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. In today's show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually walk you through what I would do in the first 5 days if I had to start completely from scratch. So if you don't know my story, I started a career coach blog for accounting professionals back in 2009. And over the course of a couple years, built that into a regular income, started teaching then how to create an online business using blogging and podcasting and YouTube videos and building lists and courses and membership sites. And that's what we teach today. But if I had to start all over again from scratch, what would I do in the first 5 days? That's what today's topic is. In fact, if you hang around for a little bit, here's what you're going to discover. The one thing I would do first that most people don't do. I'm going to talk about how I would make a profit in the first 30 to 60 days from scratch. Number 3, we're going to talk about the exact launch method I would use if I had no audience, and much, much more. By the way, if you want to know how to get started, or if you want to know how do I actually build an online business, what is the complete roadmap? I published a book called Your Message Matters. It's 267 pages with quizzes, assessments, templates, scripts, and more. And it breaks everything down to 4 simple parts. You can actually get a free physical copy of the book by going to yourmessagemattersbook.com. Go to yourmessagemattersbook.com, and all we ask is you pay the shipping and handling, and we will ship out the book to you, and you'll have it in your hands in just a couple of days. All right, let's jump into today's topic. And today I'm actually going to, for those of you listening on the podcast, where we live stream every single show episode. So we've got a live audience here following along with me. And we also turn this into a YouTube video. So as I'm going through this, I'm going to be kind of sketching out this plan on my iPad, but I'll describe it for you if you're listening on the podcast. So let's jump into the iPad. And what I want to do is I want to talk about each day, what would I do? Now, what I assumed is that I'm not doing this full time. So what would I do each day in the first 5 days if I only had 1 or 2 hours a day? And this is exactly what I would do. And then at the end of this, I'm going to sketch out what if I were starting that CPA career coach business, online business again from scratch. What would I do? All right, day 1 is I would discover my strengths and decide my niche. This is so important, and this is what most people never do. What happens is we get lost in this sea of opportunities. And all we do is we look at all these different opportunities, ways to make money, and we do what sounds good. We start what we think would work, but we don't take into effect our own unique strengths. Let me give you an example of someone who used to be a CPA, and he was getting to the place where he was thinking about early retirement. He didn't know what he wanted to do. He really didn't want to do something in accounting. He was really good with systems. So he said, you know what? I'm going to buy a McDonald's franchise. So that's what he did. He bought a McDonald's franchise because he said, I'm really good at systems. I can systematize it. It can be a business that I don't have to work 80 hours like I did when I was working at the CPA firm. And this will be kind of my retirement plan. The only problem was he realized it was less about systems and it was more about managing people. In fact, 95% of it was about managing people. Of course, McDonald's had the systems that they wanted you to follow and procedures, but it was about developing people and managing people and trying to manage a lot of times people who this was their first job out of high school and they were maybe a little bit immature and didn't take responsibility for a lot of things. And he found himself choosing the wrong business model for himself because he did not have a real hard strength towards managing people and having patience with people. He was more a systems person. And so this is why it's so important that we start with you. I would start with myself and I would look inward and I would say, what is it that I tend to do best that other people find valuable? In other words, how do I show up best for others? Now, I know this because I've gone on this journey. And for me, I know that at the heart of what I do is I'm a resourceful teacher. So once I discover that, then I would say, what do I already know or what have I experienced? Now, my 2009 self was that I'd spent 7 years as an executive recruiter for accounting professionals. And I was working and helping companies and organizations find key employees, and then that company would pay me a fee, like a headhunter, to find their ideal person. But if I wanted to start my own business and actually work with CPAs and helping them improve their career, then I would need to think about how I would do that. All right. So that's what I do first day. I would say, okay, I'm a resourceful teacher and I want to work with CPAs because I have some experience there working with CPAs, helping them in their career. That's what I would do day one. Day two is I would design a simple framework. Now, I talk about this in the book, and this one to me it's always a shock to me how many people aren't doing this. There's a handful of books out there that you will see that do this, but how do you take like a book and turn it into a business? Here's how you do that. By creating a teaching framework, by having what I call your $1 million framework. Some of the more common ones you've probably seen is if you've ever picked up 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's a diagram on literally the first page that shows a graphic visual representation of the entire system. It's one page. There's other examples out there. Good to Great has the hedgehog concept. Let's see, what else? Donald Miller and his Build a Story brand, he has his simple one-page graphic that takes you through the 7 stages of someone on a journey, right? And so there's lots of these marketing tools, but that's what I would do is I would take a day and I would be like, what are the steps? What are the 3 to 6 steps someone would need to take to have success? So for example, if I'm working with CPAs, I would think through, well, they've got to have a good resume. So a lot of them are struggling because they're really good candidates, but they have bad resumes. So if they need to improve their resume, they need to know how to handle interviews. So many accountants are great at their job, but oftentimes maybe they're not so good at interviewing. So that's step 2. And then step 3 would be negotiating a really good salary and benefits. So there are my 3 steps that I would be thinking through for day 2. What's a simple framework that I could turn around and teach? All right, day 3, I would choose my 3 core offers. Now, one of the things we teach in my Market Your Message Academy is that when you're starting from scratch at the very beginning, there's a certain way or certain method that you want to take. So what we teach is you want to first have a validate offer. I'll explain what that means. Then an activate offer. And then finally a monetize offer. Now, a validate offer means something that you sell before you create it. Because what we're doing here, and doesn't this just make logical sense, that we should extend an offer and see if people are willing to spend money on our idea before we, what a lot of people do is they go spend 9 months, 12 months building an online course only to come out and no one buys it. And then you've got this course. Or I've seen other people do that with membership sites. They take a year to record videos and put stuff in a membership site. And then they don't have an audience to go and purchase the membership site. It's a difficult thing, right? So why not validate? And two of my favorite validation offers are, number one, a 1-day virtual workshop where you sell a ticket to show up on Zoom. There's a lot of virtual events nowadays, so why not tap into that and say, hey, this next coming Saturday, I'm going to do a 2-hour virtual workshop on Zoom about X topic, and the cost is $50, $100, whatever it is, just to validate your idea. And if no one buys, guess what? You don't have to go hold that workshop if you don't want to. Now, instead, you're thinking about, well, maybe I need to choose a different topic for my workshop. Maybe I need to work on building my audience just a little bit more. Maybe I've got the wrong audience altogether. It just makes sense that we first validate. Then my second offer would be activate. Activate is a low dollar offer to build a buyer's list. And what I would choose in that instance is I would create a compact book. That is a small book, smaller than most books, that taught my framework that we just did on day 2. And I would use that book to get it in the hands of as many people as possible, with the goal of leading them finally to my monetize offer, which in this case, in the CPA career coaching space, that would probably be my coaching. Okay? So that's what I would do day 3, is I would think about my 3 core offers. Day 4 is I would choose a launch method. Now, what we mean by launch method is this is a marketing plan, a marketing method that has a buzz to it. Some examples that we see a lot are free webinars, a virtual summit, a product launch, which has, 3 videos that you watch, a quiz, like using marketing and some type of tool. But I've done all those, and all of those I've made money with. But the one that I would actually do that I think is the simplest and easiest is something that I call the social pond strategy. And what that is, it's real simple. Number 1, I get people in a private Facebook group. Number 2, I run a 3-day live challenge. And number 3, at the end of that 3-day live challenge that I could literally do from my phone, I make an offer to a 1-day virtual workshop. It's that simple. Let it be easy. It doesn't need to be complex. It doesn't need to be a complex webinar funnel or a product launch formula. You can do those 3 things and experience profit in 90 days. Some of you even 60 days. So I would choose the social pond strategy, which then leads me to day 5, is I would map out and think through and execute the social pond strategy. So let's put this all together, okay? So I covered a lot. So what would I do specifically with that CPA career coach idea? So let's say I wanted to be a career coach for CPAs. I have no list, no audience. The first thing I would do is I would create a Facebook group. I'd create a private Facebook group. And then I would start with my friends on the different social platforms. So I would reach out and say, hey, everyone, I'm actually going to be sharing some career tips for accounting professionals. And maybe that's what I would call my Facebook group, Career Tips for Accounting Professionals. And if you want to level up your career this year, come join our free private Facebook group. I would promote that on Facebook. I'd promote that anywhere else I am, like Twitter or Instagram. and I would gather together anywhere from 50 to 100 to 200 to 300 people. And I'd also reach out to some friends of mine and say, hey, would you mind posting this on your Facebook feed? Because they have friend connections that I don't have. And I would give that out to friends, and they would post it on their feed saying, hey, my friend Jonathan, he's an executive recruiter. He is going to be teaching for free some advanced career tips for accounting professionals. And I would really work hard at getting that group to 100 to 300 people in the first 30 days. Then number two, I would run a 3-day challenge into that group. And what I would do specifically is I would do one on resumes. Remember, that was kind of step one, is most accountants need to improve their resume, make it really, really good. And since I had experience at doing that, making resumes better so that when I sent it to clients, they wanted to interview my candidate, I knew how to do a resume really well. So I would do a 3-day build a killer resume challenge. And at the end of that 3 days, number 3 is I would tell them about my 1-day workshop on Zoom. And maybe it is get a better job in 30 days workshop, right? Where I would teach my framework. So I would probably have 3 or 4 sessions. Let's say I had 3 sessions that I taught on Zoom. And let's say I charged just $100 just to try to validate my message. Well, if I got 10 people to join my workshop from that 300-member Facebook group, that's $1,000 for me on a Saturday to teach what I know for 3 hours. That's pretty awesome, right? So there you go. I would do like session 1, build your resume, session 2, how to handle an interview, and session 3, how to negotiate your salary and benefits. And that's where I would start. That's literally what I would do. Now, back in 2009, I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have live streaming. I didn't have Zoom to do a workshop. So I started with what I had back then, which was I'm just going to blog and create articles. And that took a longer ramp up time before I was able to actually make any significant income or money. But this plan, I think I would be able to execute this anywhere from probably 60 days. I think within 2 months, maybe even 30 days, if I really pushed it hard enough, I would get people in a group. I would run that 3-day resume challenge, and I would offer that workshop on a Saturday. So there you go. That is the step-by-step plan. Maybe you took something away from this that you've been just needing it boiled down to 5 simple steps. I hope these 5 steps help you. By the way, this is a complete system, tools, templates, and scripts that we teach in Market Your Message Academy. We are helping students with no business get it off the ground and earn income within 30, 60, and 90 days. Now, we open and close Market Your Message Academy throughout the year, but if you want to go ahead and take a look and see if it's currently open, you can go to marketyourmessageacademy.com. So marketyourmessageacademy.com. And if it's not currently open, you can leave your name and email address on the wait list, and we'll let you know as soon as the doors are open. All right. Well, again, don't forget that if you still want to know what's the complete roadmap, go grab a copy of the book. In fact, we'll send you a free physical copy by going to yourmessagemattersbook.com, yourmessagemattersbook.com. All right, that is the end of today's episode. I hope this was helpful to you. Take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or even review our show. And also let us know what episodes you would like for us to cover in the future. And until next time, never forget, your message matters.